We begin with a major legal development involving accused CEO killer Luigi Mangione. Just hours from now, he is due back in a New York federal court where sources tell NBC News he is expected to plead guilty to stalking charges. This would be a significant turn in the federal case against him, one that could have implications for his state murder case, with that trial set to start soon. Mangione is accused of gunning down United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson outside of a Manhattan hotel back in December of 2024. Now, those same sources tell NBC News negotiations over the plea are ongoing, and until he enters that plea in court, nothing is final. This new twist raises new questions about what a federal guilty plea could mean for the state case. NBC News senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett has the details.
A dramatic reversal for Luigi Mangione, now expected to plead guilty in federal court, according to sources familiar with Friday's planned hearing. The 28-year-old had pled not guilty to federal stalking charges, accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson on a Manhattan sidewalk in 2024. But the exact terms of any proposed plea deal with prosecutors, unclear. Mangione's lawyers in the Justice Department declining to comment.
There's a conference scheduled for 11 a.m. on Friday, and that's all we can say at this time.
Sources caution plea talks continue. Mangione met with his lawyers and can still back out. The judge overseeing the federal case would also have to sign off on any agreement to make it official. But the specter of a deal comes at a crucial time for Mangione. He's currently set to go to trial in New York State Court early next month. Prosecutors here pursuing second-degree murder and gun charges. And he's pled not guilty in the closely watched case that's already seen twists. Earlier this summer, the defense team briefly floating the possibility of arguing Mangione was suffering from an extreme emotional disturbance, only to withdraw that suggestion a day later. But his attorneys have consistently maintained he's been treated unfairly, facing both federal and state charges at the same time.
Double jeopardy is a big thing here, right? Mr. Mangione is being charged in 3 different cases for one incident.
Laura Jarrett, NBC News.
Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos for more on today's hearing, what could be a major turning point in this case. So first of all, just walk us through what this could actually look like in the courtroom today.
If this is a guilty plea, then it isn't a complicated affair, but boy, it is actually very stressful for defense attorneys like me, because the defendant will be asked to place facts on the record, to go through what's called a colloquy. It's a script that you ask. Are you here pleading guilty knowingly and voluntarily? Are you pleading guilty because you are in fact guilty? Those are a lot of different moments that if the defendant doesn't answer the right way, you cannot accept the guilty plea as a judge. They must actually plead guilty because they believe they are guilty.
And as you just mentioned, Laura mentioned, the judge could reject it. Why would that happen? How likely is that possibility?
Judges can reject plea agreements. They are not bound by them. And you have to tell clients that all the time, that we can enter into this agreement, but the judge may ultimately reject it. It doesn't happen very often. And federal prosecutors are just not known for giving sweetheart deals. So I'm so curious to see what this deal, if there is one, what this deal could be, because he could always just walk in and plead straight up to the indictment with no deal.
That begs the question, and I guess because we don't know what the deal actually is, but why would Mangione want to plead guilty in this situation?
Oh, the intrigue, Joe. This is where it gets really, really interesting. Mangione may be able to take advantage of double jeopardy, not the federal constitutional double jeopardy, but New York has its own double jeopardy statute that is broader than the federal protections. And Mangione, I expect, is planning to plead guilty in the federal case and then immediately move to bar the New York state prosecution, claiming that double jeopardy bars it, that these are essentially 2 prosecutions for the same transaction. Look for state prosecutors to argue instead that stalking is the federal crime. It happens before the killing, and the murder happens at the time of the killing.
So essentially, Mangione's team would be arguing that the state case should completely go away, or what would be the argument here?
Exactly right, and that's why it's such a gambit. They're going to argue the entire case is barred by double jeopardy. But if they are wrong, if it falls within the statutory exceptions and the DA's office wins, then Mangione will have pleaded in federal court and then then be subjected to a trial in state court.
Yeah, explain what that might look like, because I have to imagine for state prosecutors that would be very helpful to say, hey, look, he's already pleaded guilty in federal court. Can they make that argument? And then how would Mangione defend himself against that?
Sure, it would be good. Look, if Mangione goes to trial in the state court case, that means he's lost this bid. And by the way, you're exactly right. The fact that he's pleading guilty to the federal crime has a lot of very serious implications for evidence against him in the state court case. That's why it's such a risk. They're essentially torpedoing their own defense if there is a New York state trial, but there may not be one because, as I said, this double jeopardy statute in New York is actually quite broad, and they have a very realistic chance of barring the New York state prosecution.
What are you going to be listening for in court today? And in the end, what could the sentence look like on the federal case that's handed down?
In any high-profile case during a guilty plea, a defense attorney is beset with anxiety because every one of those questions could go south. Remember, it's been a while, but remember how animated Luigi Mangione was when he was being perp-walked into a courthouse in Pennsylvania, shouting at the press. This is somebody we've seen highs and lows emotionally, and during a guilty plea colloquy where you're being asked to admit that, yes, I committed these crimes, someone like Mangione, who may want attention, who may want to reach out to his supporters, may make a stand, make a symbolic stand, and blow up this entire plea process.
I have to imagine it'll be quite the scene outside of the courtroom as well today. All right, Danny Savalos, we know you're going to help continue to guide us through this process. We appreciate it. The other big story this morning is the aftermath of that devastating flooding in the Midwest. Indiana's Governor Mike Braun has declared a statewide disaster emergency after days of relentless rain washed out roads and flooded homes. So far, at least 3 people have been killed in the flooding there. Overnight, people living along the Whitewater River in eastern Indiana were forced to evacuate. Rapidly rising waters there caused what authorities described as unprecedented flooding. And way out west, Hawaii is now under a hurricane warning. That state is preparing for Tropical Storm Lala to make landfall as a hurricane sometime tomorrow. The storm could bring up to a foot of rain to parts of the islands. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has the latest on all of it from Anderson, Indiana.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, the rain has been pouring here all night, and it's come with massive thunder and lightning, which is, by the way, why we are where we are. We've taken cover because the lightning has just been nonstop throughout parts of the morning. All of this, as you can imagine, making a devastating flood situation worse. I mean, it comes after days of high water rescues in Indiana. In the city of Anderson, where we are, evacuation orders were issued late yesterday, with the White River cresting overnight at nearly 25 feet. That's an all-time record. In nearby Cambridge City, we saw residents wading through water, trying to get back to their homes, some of which were still flooded yesterday. And for many, once they got inside, the reality of what was left was just overwhelming. So much was destroyed. Indiana's governor declared a statewide disaster emergency yesterday, with more than 200,000 people still without power in the wake of these storms. And that disaster declaration, by the way, mobilizing several state agencies, including law enforcement, et cetera, to help with a lot of this cleanup. The Indiana National Guard has also been mobilized. They're in multiple spots across the state. And obviously that job of trying to get people back on their feet is only going to get harder and bigger with the more rain that falls. Joe?
All right, Maggie, thank you so much. For more on what to expect this weekend where you are, time for your morning News Now forecast. Angie Lastman joins us with that. Angie, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Joe. We made it last day of the work week, but no rest for the Midwest is basically how we're rolling into this weekend. And when it comes to the weather, already ramping things up yet again. All of this kind of firing up right on the periphery of that heat dome that we've been talking about for days and days. Again, adding the lift, adding the fuel that we need for much of this thunderstorm activity, and plenty of lightning and even some heavy rain stretched essentially from Ohio all the way back towards Nebraska. This is going to be that same area that sees the most impactful weather as the day goes on. Here's what we're watching for your afternoon hours as far as the severe thunderstorms focused across parts of Iowa, Illinois, and northern Missouri. But still, general thunderstorms across that same region and the potential for some additional flooding as well. Tomorrow, the severe risk is farther to the east, stretching from southern Michigan all the way down into the Carolinas. We'll still have some general thunderstorms across parts of the plains, but the flooding is what we are most concerned about here as we get through at least the short term of today. across some of those same areas. Additional rain on the way, multiple inches in some spots. Notice places like Indiana, Ohio, and back west towards Illinois and Iowa are included in at least a slight risk, if not a moderate risk. Places like Des Moines, you're included in that moderate risk. So still concerned about the flooding across some of those same areas that we've been dealing with it for days and days. That is going to be the story again today. Also, the story again today, the heat. No rest for folks across the South when it comes to temperatures. We've got 90 million people under those heat alerts, with this heat dome just keeping us kind of roasting. 101 and 2 below feels like 112 today. It feels like 108 in Myrtle Beach, 102 for what it feels like in Lexington. It's going to be uncomfortable, to say the least, over the next couple of days. We've got 94 in Atlanta and 103 for what it feels like. Meanwhile, Tropical Storm Lala has prompted some watches and warnings across parts of the island chain. This is going to be something, Joe, that we watch into the next couple of days, likely becoming a hurricane before it kind of takes aim at the Big Island with some heavy rain as we get into tomorrow.
Right, we know you'll keep an eye on it. Angie, thank you so much. Nearly 6 months into the war with Iran, concerns are growing over the physical and mental toll on American troops. Sailors and their families say one grueling deployment is pushing the crew to its breaking point. Now the Trump administration is planning to replace their aircraft carrier amid complaints about the conditions. NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr joins us now with more on that. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. The USS Abraham Lincoln is playing a critical part in the war against Iran and raising broader concerns about long deployments, though the defense secretary is adamant every ship has everything it needs. This morning, relief is finally on the way for sailors at sea on board the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier for a record 244 days without stopping at a port, most recently carrying out strikes against Iran. 2 U.S. officials tell NBC News there have been growing complaints from service members and their families about deteriorating conditions. Danielle Rappa says her son's mental health has taken a nosedive.
This is a young man who can tolerate an enormous amount. When he starts describing his life to his mother as American Horror Story and talking about being completely exhausted, I listen.
The complaints include limited meal portions like these, and a U.S. official says one sailor went overboard but was quickly rescued. Now the Lincoln is set to be switched out with another Navy carrier and finally sail home in the coming weeks, according to a U.S. official. It was initially set to return in May. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth thanking the sailors and defending conditions on board.
Completely misrepresented. Listen, we make sure that every ship, every crew, every captain has everything we can provide them at every single moment.
As the war with Iran drags on, President Trump has signaled a focus on economic pressure to force Iran into a deal. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says tougher sanctions are coming.
We are going to apply measures like have never been seen.
The administration and sailors at sea looking for an off-ramp. 2 U.S. officials tell NBC News Joint Chiefs Chairman Dan Kane has warned President Trump and Secretary Hegseth about lengthy deployments and declining morale. Now, lawmakers from both parties are pushing for more oversight and certainty that the sailors do have what they need. Joe?
All right, Alice, thank you so much. Let's continue the conversation with NBC News military analyst Colonel Steve Warren. Colonel, good to have you with us. So the USS Lincoln now, it's been at sea more than 240 consecutive days. That's a modern record. First, just kind of walk people through what these deployments are like just day to day on a ship like this.
Sure, and 244 days is a long deployment. You know, the United States aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln is one of the most complex operating systems you'll ever find. So what are they doing? They're on a combat deployment. They're conducting operations 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are launching aircraft. They are recovering aircraft. They are defending themselves against enemy fires, against missiles, and against drones. And they are keeping a nuclear reactor going. And they're doing all of that all at the same time, in addition to everything you always have to do on any ship at sea. Regular old maintenance, getting people fed, getting clothes cleaned, et cetera, et cetera. So it is a very complex operation. Those sailors are working very, very hard.
So with that in mind, what goes through your mind when you hear these reports of deteriorating conditions on board, the mental health concerns? I mean, is it something that should be expected given the length of the deployment, or are there things that could have been done to avoid that?
Well, sure. Well, there's two things that are a little bit different about this deployment. You know, a normal carrier deploys from 6 to 9 months. This carrier has been out about 9 months, so not super unusual there. But what's different about this particular deployment, there are two things. Number one, this carrier reportedly has not made a single port call. Okay, a port call is when the ship pulls into a friendly port. They have a chance to get reprovisioned, resupplied with fresh things, fresh fruits, etc. And it gives the sailors a chance to take some shore leave, decompress a little bit, get their feet back under them, get recentered before they go out again. Those normally happen maybe once a month on a typical deployment, Joe. So none of those have happened reportedly for this ship. So they haven't had a chance to take a break. The other thing that's unusual about this deployment is that they haven't apparently had a definitive end date. In other words, imagine when you're on a plane and you're flying and you don't have your watch on, you don't know when the plane's going to land, you don't even know how far you go. How frustrating would that be? Well, imagine that for these sailors. They've been out already 6 or 7 months. They don't know if they're going to go home next month, 2 months from now, or 6 months from now. That makes it very, very difficult.
Let's talk more about this switchover. We're going from Lincoln to Washington. The USS George Washington will be the new ship. Walk us through just how this switch actually works. And do you think defense officials can change anything to avoid maybe something similar happening, whether with this carrier or anything else out there right now?
Yeah, so the swap out will take a couple of weeks. It'll take a week or so for the new aircraft carrier to get into position. Then they conduct, logistical handovers. There's a lot of briefings. So, the outgoing ship and crew will talk to the incoming ship and crew, let them know sort of, what to worry about, what to think about, what some specifics of the operation are. Again, they have to worry about operational things. They are in combat. Again, let's not forget for a moment that these sailors are in combat. And then they have to worry about other typical navigation type issues that any mariner would have to worry about. What are they doing about it? Well, there's a couple of things. The first thing, again, think of it, I like to think of this almost think of a truck driver. You can skip an oil change once in a while, and you can drive all night on the highway living on coffee and donuts. You can do that once in a while, but if you do it nonstop, there's going to be a real problem. So what the Navy has to do now is ensure that these sailors continue to get what they need, have continued support, and know when this thing is going to end.
Need more than coffee and donuts. Colonel Warren, as always, good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it. We are learning new information this morning on that elaborate security operation involving the president and a threat from Iran. It's a story we first told you about earlier this week. The president was secretly whisked off one plane and onto another while in Turkey last month. That left his staff and reporters behind to fly on Air Force One. Now, a senior administration official is dismissing the criticism that the White House had a so-called duty to warn those on the decoy plane of the danger they might have faced from a potential Iranian strike. NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us now with that and more. John, good morning. So what is the administration's justification for not warning the staff and the reporters who were left on the plane?
Yeah, a senior administration official told our friend Garrett Hake that the administration's view is that the people who were on the so-called decoy plane, the one that did not have the president, the one that they thought there was originally a threat to, were not the target, and therefore there is no duty to warn them. The other thing the senior administration official said is people sign up for this duty. They know that it is potentially perilous. And the senior administration official said, if I die, I die. I'm not sure everybody on that plane would share that view. And certainly if the decoy plane had gone down with U.S. government officials and reporters on it, it would have been a major international incident that the United States would have had to respond to with force. So the position of the administration is the president is above everyone else. And they point, I think, reasonably to laws that suggest that the protection of the president is paramount.
John, let's turn to another story, a major setback for President Trump's legal fight with Harvard. A federal judge has now thrown out the administration's anti-Semitism lawsuit, which argued the university was failing to protect Jewish students. Critics have said the suit was just part of a pressure campaign to get the school to give in to some other demands by the White House. Walk us through why the judge did decide to toss this case.
And basically, the judge said that the incidents cited by the administration are too isolated. Incidents of anti-Semitism on the campus are too isolated and too infrequent to create the view that there's a pattern of institutionalized discrimination against Jewish students at Harvard. The administration had argued that it was a violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Basically, entities that get federal funding aren't allowed to discriminate on the basis of race, religion, other metrics. And so, the judge basically said, look, Harvard's not doing this to its own students. There have been some incidents of anti-Semitism, but certainly not a university-wide policy.
Another issue that had been in the courts for a bit now centers on the Kennedy Center. Now, President Trump's efforts to try and overhaul the center appear to be back on track. The Trump-appointed Kennedy board has voted to put his name back on the building, then partially close the center for 2 years during some renovations. Remind us how we got to this point and tell us what this latest decision means for the center and just for the fight over who controls the place.
Sure, the president had put his name on the Kennedy Center. In fact, joined the names Trump and Kennedy, the Trump Kennedy Center. And a judge said, you can't do that. Congress authorizes the Kennedy Center. Congress created the Kennedy Center. The plain language of the law doing that says that the Kennedy Center, the Kennedy Center is completely under the control of Congress. This board has decided now that they are going to add Trump's name in a different way. So it'll be the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts, renovated and revitalized by Donald J. Trump. According to the board, we'll see what the courts say. This looks like an end run against around a judge. Oftentimes, judges do not look favorably on people who, adhere to the letter of what they said or find a new letter rather than the spirit. But we shall see.
Is that the name of the place? Like, that's what they're going to put on the building?
There's going to be look. I mean, we'll have to see it, right, to believe it. But there's supposed to be an inscription on the side of the building that will make reference to Donald Trump having revitalized it and renovated it through an endowment fund. And then they're also planning to name the plaza upon which the building sits, the Donald J. Trump Plaza. So again, I think this is going to end up right back where it started in court, and the cat and mouse game will continue for as long as Donald Trump is president, probably.
All right. John Allen, good to have you with us. Thank you so much.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.